Okay, so today I want to talk a little bit further about a potential problem that could come up with those new Freddie Mac guidelines. They're voluntary until note dates of November 8th, but Freddie Mac has encouraged lenders to adopt them now. So you could be running into them at any time. The one area that I want to get into more detail on was where Freddie said that if your borrower had changed entity types, that it would not be considered the same business if there had been any kind of an ownership change in the percentage of ownership your borrower had. I had mentioned that I saw a problem where if you were trying to get by with 1 year of tax returns, that they had been in business for over 5 years, but during that entity change that took place less than 5 years ago, if there had been also a percentage ownership change, that therefore you would in underwriting be ruled out from getting by with 1 year of tax returns. So the further thought that I have now uh, is that it could even come up if you're planning to use 2 years of tax returns to qualify. And that could be because your borrower has been in business less than 5 years, or even if they've been in business for longer, say for 10 years, but you did have that break in the ownership percentage when the entity type changed. And now the underwriter is going to come back and say, okay, you can't use 1 year of tax returns. You need 2 years of tax returns. And the problem can be that they may say, well, I want to see a full year of tax returns under the new entity. Uh, so you could be in a situation where the entity change took place in June. Here we're in August of 2024. Say the entity change took place in June. Now, you're not going to have a full year of tax returns even when they file their 2024 tax return. You won't have that until they file their 2025 tax return. Now, I'm not saying that absolutely that is what an underwriter is going to say, but I could see the potential for that happening. It would also be a little bit extreme, but going forward, I could even see an underwriter saying, I want to see 2 years of tax returns under the new entity because it's a new business. And yeah, you can show they've been self-employed for over 2 years, but you don't have a full 2 years of tax returns. Now, this latest scenario is unlikely, but let's say there's a 5% chance that you're going to have an underwriter, you're going to run into that underwriter that takes that position, either the 1 full year of tax returns or 2 full years of tax returns. That means that when you have a question or a scenario like this, or any other area where the guideline isn't fully clear and established, and this guideline may or may not get fully flushed out with follow-up Q&A from Freddie Mac. So that would mean that 1 out of 20 times, if you don't check up front with your account executive or your scenario desk, or if you can contact an underwriter directly, 1 out of 20 times, 5%, something's going to come up. You're going to get an answer you don't like. So that could happen on the 7th loan, the 15th loan, the 19th loan you send in. Or it could happen not at all for a while, and then the 38th and the 39th loan that you send in, both of those will blow up on you. And you'll still be within your 5%. It'll be 2 out of the top 40 or the next 40 loans. And so I want to try to teach you to be extra careful and to look at the situation, to put it in a football analogy. You've got a customer who is willing to come to you for a loan. You've had a discussion with them. Things are going well. They're acceptable to the rate you're quoting. They want to go with you. You're about at the 5-yard line, about to run the ball into the end zone. There generally is not going to be a whole ton of work from this point going forward, a couple of hours, but a lot of the effort's already been made in terms of talking with them, following up with them, waiting for them to find a house that they can get their offer accepted. And if you fail to ask this question and you get the wrong underwriter, it's like them coming up and slamming their helmet on the ball because you're carrying the ball out loose. You didn't double and triple check as to whether or not every last little piece of data that you have about this particular loan is going to be acceptable. And then I'm going to see you either with your own name or posting anonymously in, say, one of the Facebook groups, and you're going to be saying, oh, the underwriter said that because there was an ownership change when they also did the entity change, that I need a full year's tax returns under the new entity or 2 years tax returns under the new entity. And then all the comments are going to come in. They're going to tell you that's crazy, escalate it. Or they're going to say, I would never let that underwriter touch one of my loans ever again. Now, that must be a very heavy hitter that has that much power to tell somebody who is not going to underwrite their loans. And then you'll see all the recruiters, especially the ones where they get an override on your production. They'll all be chiming in. You should never work at a company like that. Come over here. Like it's a matter of you changing your outfit. That's all it is. They make it seem like it's a piece of cake. You get a bad decision from an underwriter, and so now you should go into transferring your license and learning new systems. When you could have avoided all this aggravation up front if you were just a little bit more careful. You don't have to know every guideline by heart. You just have to know to ask, when they've been in business for however many years it's been, have you always been this type of entity? Have you ever had a change of ownership percentage when you're doing this entity? As an aside, they could be self-employed now by owning over 25%, and you're trying to get away with 1 year of tax return on 5 years. But if they didn't have at least 25% ownership for the full 5 years, it's likely you're not going to get away with using the 1 year of tax returns. So these kinds of customers, they could be your regular sole proprietor Schedule C that now is switching over to an LLC or an S corporation in order to get some more legal protection. But it doesn't have to be. This could be a much larger company who possibly has bought out a competitor, and they got tax or legal advice that instead of being an S corp, they'd be better off now as an LLC. Possibly they gave 10% ownership in the company to the other owner of the company that they bought out. And so you could have somebody who is very established, and if you overlook this problem, you're not only going to lose this borrower, but you're going to lose all the referrals from them. You could have been working on a realtor for over a year trying to get a lead, and it's going to blow up. And these more sophisticated borrowers are the kind that you'd really like to have because they may very well buy a second home. They may very well own investment property. They likely travel in circles of similar folks that are well off. And I see so many new loan officers today, they're struggling. The people that they're getting referred to them is usually those that are barely or not even qualifying that need to be worked on for 6 months or a year or longer before they're even ready to qualify. And then you're still going to go through the cycle of when are they going to find a house. So when you have an opportunity to deal with some of these more successful business people, you want to make sure that you do a good job. I want to talk to you a little bit more about what it takes to become what I call a zero fallout loan officer. And to be a zero fallout loan officer, you have to, again, remember to ask every possible question that you can think of to whoever it is you trust, whether it's an AE, whether it's a scenario desk, whether it's an underwriter. And I want to point out to you that it's your responsibility to ask the borrower. It's not the borrower's responsibility when you say, how long have you been in business? And they say for 10 years, for them to say, oh, by the way, 6 months ago or 2.5 years ago, I switched my entity type and we had a little bit of a rearranging of the ownership percentages, whether that's between an existing partner or a new partner. It's up to you as the loan officer to make sure to ask the borrower these questions. Now, this week online, I see this discussion. If it's not every week, it's almost every week. Oh, I made a mistake. The loan's not going to close. What should I do? How should I recover from that? And you get answers. Some of them are unbelievable answers. Answers like, well, we're loan officers. If we knew what we would do and if we really knew the guidelines, we'd be underwriters. Well, that is not a very good attitude to take. And I know some people, they just can't seem to ever grasp the guidelines. They're not willing to make the effort to learn the guidelines. They're just great talkers, fast talkers, and they're used to in life. They're just so charming and so smooth. They just think they can talk themselves out of every situation, and they'd rather do that than bear down and put an extra 15 or 20 minutes of thought into every loan that they originate. So if you're newer to the business, and I'd say newer can be less than 20 or 30 closed loans, and you'd like to learn how to become a zero fallout loan officer, you can get in touch with me either by email, Alan, ALAN, at complete1003.com, or you can just go to my website, complete1003.com, look around, see if you think what I have might be of help to you. If you're, though, that kind of sort of slappy, happy loan officer that thinks they're going to come in and in 1 hour, they want a 1 hour magic solution, and they'll know how to structure every loan that can be made, and they'll know how to make sure that they don't get any pushback in underwriting, don't waste your time. I'm not for you. I need somebody that's going to spend at least 10 or 15 hours looking through the software that I have, the educational software, and that you'll come on Zooms with me and I can answer any questions about underwriting guidelines you understand. I can go over with you any of your scenarios. I think that's going to do it for today. If you'd like to get together, I will meet with you and help you as much as I possibly can. It's going to be very low key in terms of whether or not you actually become a customer. But feel free, even if you don't have the finances, you can't spend any money, come on, talk with me, and I'll help you as much as I can in the time that we have together.